be in your midst this evening. I am so excited because we have some illustrious members of D44 leadership with us this evening. First, I would like to recognize our wonderful district director, Distinguished Toastmaster Roxanne Rush. Distinguished Toastmaster Rush, would you like to say a few words, please?
Sure, I'd just like to say good evening. It's wonderful to have you all here tonight. Doug is going to do a fabulous job, I know, explaining pathways. So feel free to reach out to him and ask any questions that you may have, because we all want to make sure we understand how to navigate and or understand all about pathways. So thank you, Doug, for presenting tonight.
Thank you, Madam District Director. And we also have with us Madam PQD Director, Toastmaster Kari Evans. Yay, Kari, would you like to say some words this evening?
Thank you, Stephanie, and welcome everyone to all you can learn about pathways in less than an hour. But as Roxanne mentioned, Doug is here. He is going to really show you what to do and answer your questions and take you through step by step on how to navigate and learn this process. And I would like to thank the co-chair, the D44 education team co-chair, Stephanie Ray, for helping to put this together as well. And to give a shout out, she's not here, but our past district director, Phyllis Breach, is also the co-chair of the D44 education team. So thank you guys for getting this together. Welcome again to everyone that is here, and I will turn it back over to Stephanie.
Thank you, Madam PQD. A few weeks ago, we had our first Pathways program presented by Distinguished Toastmaster Doug Myers, and it was really amazing. We learned a lot, and we're so excited to have him again. We have a few ground rules, but just a few. When you will have time to engage with our speaker in a couple of ways. First, that you can raise your virtual hand, or you can put a question in the chat. However, we ask that you remain on mute until you are addressing our speaker. Toastmaster Myers will not be speaking for the full hour, and we will have some time for Q&A at the end. And finally, your feedback is so important to us. And near the end of the workshop, I will drop a link to a short survey, and we would love for you to fill that out. Our wonderful speaker, Distinguished Toastmaster Doug Myers extraordinaire, has been a Toastmaster since 2017. Toastmaster Myers has truly enjoyed the experience of speaking and presenting within the challenging yet doable Pathways learning experience. And as a Pathways champion, under the tutelage of Fran Ellis CPA, Toastmaster Myers has enjoyed mentoring both clubs and members in navigating Pathways. I know Doug has been instrumental for me in learning. He is a member of St. Leo, the Great Toastmasters, Chat Toastmasters, and Beyond the World of Toastmasters Advanced Clubs. Toastmaster Myers has 2 grandchildren, and his family knows him as, listen to this, Daddy-O, which is pronounced Daddy-O, Irish and Gaelic for grandfather. Toastmaster Myers, something you may not know, is a U.S. lacrosse certified level 2 coach, woo, an Alpharetta community emergency response team member, a credentialed shotgun instructor, has the CFP designation with that, is a registered investment advisor, and is a senior vice president with FinTrust Capital Advisors. Let us welcome Distinguished Toastmasters Doug Myers.
Stephanie, thank you so much for that kind introduction. I'm really excited tonight to be able to go over and introduce and reintroduce to everybody Pathways. Toastmasters has been around for just under 100 years, and Pathways represents the culmination, the summation, the confabulation of all that Toastmasters knows, is, does, and wants you to become. They've put it in this particular package in an optimum way to make everyone realize their personal goals. It really is a neat, neat program. I'm going to take the approach that a number of you haven't even signed up for a particular pathway. So we're going to start at pretty basic levels. There are others here who have completed paths. That's okay. Hopefully everyone here will learn something new. The most important thing that I want everyone to learn is how the process works, so they'll know exactly what's going on within pathways and how it relates to BaseCamp, the BaseCamp Manager, and finally, the Toastmasters website, Leadership Central. There are 11 paths, 11 secret herbs and spices. All of those paths are similar in the first couple of levels. In the later levels, you have electives that branch out into the particular areas of expertise that you're striving to learn and incorporate into your life skill set. Of the 11, there's really only one standout, and that's the last one they've added, and it's engaging humor. It was the first one I signed up for. I was the second person within all of Toastmasters to sign up for it. Some other person beat me to it. I was so excited. Someday I'll become funny. I'm still working on it, but I have completed that particular pathway. I'll try to give you all sorts of examples within these particular pathways and how they are controlled by something called BaseCamp. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. And the first thing I'll ask is, can everyone see my particular screen once I get it shared?
Yes, we can see it.
Fantastic. Now, Stephanie, I'll ask you, as you see questions come into the chat, don't be afraid to go ahead and interrupt me, because I can incorporate those particular questions in where I'm going to. I encourage everyone to ask questions. There's no dumb questions. If you have that question, probably everybody else has that particular question. Your first landing page is Toastmasters. Now I'm going to assume, there's that magic word, that some of you have not signed up for your pathway. So I'm going to take you through that particular progress, because within pathways, within the Toastmasters framework and within the BaseCamp framework, there are a couple of foibles, characteristics that can, if you don't know them, can make it seem a little opaque, a little obstacle ridden. Once you're signed in, you click on your name. That's the number one easiest way to navigate through the Toastmasters website. I trust everyone can see my cursor. I've sort of supersized it here. From the Toastmasters website, upper left-hand corner here, you can go to BaseCamp. For those who are officers in their club, president, vice president of education, and secretary, they can also log in as BaseCamp Manager. I'll get to that in a second. Here I'm going to log in as BaseCamp into my particular BaseCamp. This takes me from the Toastmasters website. So I'm going to look up here. We're at toastmasters.org. When you click go, taking you to BaseCamp. BaseCamp is a DUIC, a dynamic user interactive chalkboard. It is a system that delivers you, oh, good grief. Well, that's a bit of a problem. BaseCamp delivers you your pathway. BaseCamp is what takes the pathway and puts it in an educational format. And for some reason, it's down. So we're going to try something again here. Didn't expect that to happen, but we can fly quickly. Toastmasters.org. Let's see if it brings us back. We're going to click on pathways. We're going to go to BaseCamp and bring it back. As it spins, let's go back here. Stephanie, can you try to get into Toastmasters and see if it's locked, if spontaneously, if it's gone?
Sure, let me see.
If it is down, I can make a change and we will go to a canned presentation.
Okay, I'm in Toastmasters.org.
Okay, there we go. All right, here it's back. All right, so
Okay.
we just had a little hiccup. Again, my apologies. Once you've clicked on go to BaseCamp, this is the screen you will see. If you're also a BaseCamp manager, you'll have that choice. I'm gonna go to BaseCamp. Oh, what is going on here? Stephanie, can you try to go to BaseCamp Manager or just BaseCamp?
Yes, let me see if it'll let me go to BaseCamp.
While you're doing that, I'm going to jump to selecting your path. Once you're at the website, you can click on choose a path and I'll show you the particular foibles there. The most important thing I can implore everyone here to do, go choose a pathway. Go sign up for a pathway. You've paid for it, and that's the first step in a wonderful journey. You will become an excellent speaker, an excellent communicator. Your interpersonal skills will go off the charts. All you've got to do is choose the pathway, and that gets you started.
Doug, try to go to BaseCamp. Don't go there. Oh, okay. That's
yeah. So I'm going to pay. Yeah. So BaseCamp is not working.
I got BaseCamp, but I went under where your St. Leo the Great was.
Okay.
I went there and it let me in.
Okay.
So
okay.
Go back one screen. Yeah, the middle one, go to BaseCamp there and see if that'll take you.
There we go.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. I'm going to jump back to choosing your path, and then we'll jump back to BaseCamp. So from Toastmasters.org, you click on Pathways, choose a path. Here's the magic. You'll choose your language. And right here where I'm circling, this is very, very lightly grayed out. And this is very, very lightly grayed out. You can choose printed materials and pay an extra $25, or you can select the digital resources. Once you select this, this is going to become ungrayed, but drop way down. That's a foible or a characteristic of this particular screen. Then you have two choices. You can view the path options, or you can take an online assessment. For those of you who are familiar with the Myers-Briggs personality test, this is something similar to that. It asks you about 30 or so questions of what your interests are, what your current skills are, what you're trying to get out, and it will suggest a path for you. You can choose either way. Here we'll choose path options, and then this continue button becomes ungrayed out, and then you can go and choose a particular path. I've clicked on it. Tonight, after our little meeting, I would love for everyone who has not chosen a path, if you have friends or family that have not chosen a path, to go get them to choose a path. It's recommending presentation mastery, but here are the 11 right here. These two are grayed out because those are the ones I'm already involved in. That's the process of path selection. Once you've chosen a path, you can go back into the Toastmasters website, click on BaseCamp, and this is the screen that will pop up. From here is where you navigate all of BaseCamp. This is your paths and learning education transcript. That's also right down here. So those are in two different places. For those of you who are ready to give speech evaluations, every speech evaluation is at your fingertips. This becomes a problem with the Zoom environment when someone's giving a speech on Zoom and the evaluator doesn't have that particular speech evaluation. It's right here. Speech evaluations. There's all the speeches right there. And you can click on those, download it. It's a fill-outable PDF, and then you send it to the speaker. course, here are the tutorials and resources. Toastmasters credit, they've put everything on there. So there are tutorials. If you ever have insomnia, they've got the solution for you. Also here, there's a document locker. That's sort of a little, not necessarily advanced, but if you want to save your evaluations or any other documents, you go here. As you complete things, you get badges. As you complete levels, you get a digital badge. I'll show you what mine looks like. I have 28 total badges, and these are what they indicate. And this is what I'm going to try to really put into everybody's mind. When you complete a pathway, you have accomplished something that very few people in the world have done. You have demonstrated a proficiency in an area that isn't taught in college, isn't taught in textbooks. It's only really taught in Toastmasters. Here you get to say you are engaging humor proficient. You have completed a mentorship program, presentation mastery proficient. This is something you can show coworkers, human resource departments. You can stick it on your profile if you like. When you complete a pathway, you have a micro credential in a proficiency. It is a really neat thing to be able to do. I brag on Toastmasters. It has the highest ROE of any particular program you can do. The ROE is return on effort. A little bit of effort gets you a long way. I'm going to click on my particular effective coaching curriculum. This is what the BaseCamp looks like. So BaseCamp, and you can tell you're in BaseCamp when it says Toastmasters.csod. That's the BaseCamp vendor. It's delivering the pathway to me. When I want to work on a particular project within, say, level 3, reaching consensus, there's launch, there's view details. If I wanted to go to, say, another level, and you're allowed to go between levels, you can launch it if you've already activated it. So the steps are activate, launch. It pulls down the actual projects within the particular pathway. And this is the process that you'll go through as you're in your pathway. This takes a little time to spool up. So I'm going to show you as it's spooling, because it takes a long time. I'm going to segue to, in my humble opinion, some of the greatest work District 44 has done to help everybody in the district. Last year's Pathways champions under Fran Ellis and under Kari Evans, under everyone, they all put together at the D44 Toastmasters website. You go into club members and then your Pathways journey. This should spool up here in a second, and it will bring up, in my humble opinion, the best navigation system to get you started and carry through with your particular pathways. They put together all 11 of the pathways. They've put them on one particular website. They've put the icebreaker on here. So if there's anyone here that hasn't given their icebreaker, I'm going to show you a quick foible of the icebreaker project. And it's also to understand that this particular foible is within all the particular levels. It's a little secret within the system. There's the Pathways Mentor Program. I'll join that in a second. But here at the very bottom, and remember this, everything in Toastmasters always scroll to the bottom. There's good stuff at the bottom. Here's a Pathways Champion workshop that anyone can view at any time. And here are 6 of the PowerPoint presentations for anybody who wants to review the nitty-gritty details of BaseCamp, BaseCamp Manager. And here's an extra special thing, and this is for all the Vice Presidents of Education. Fran Ellis, CPA, has created a vertical tracking Excel spreadsheet. It should spool up here in a second. You can download the information from BaseCamp Manager. I don't know why it's locking up. You'll have to
Doug,
trust me on
which
that.
browser are you using?
This is the Brave browser, which worked last time. It's what I used last time, so I don't know what's going on. but that's the way it is. So D44 Toastmasters.org. I'm going to take you to the Icebreaker video in presentation, if I can get it to work. Let's go here. No, we're going to go here. I'm going to bring it here. My apologies. Little hiccups is the websites are going a little bit slower than I had anticipated. This is the Icebreaker project. At the beginning of every particular project, there's going to be all sorts of embedded homework, tasks, video, and learning modules. You navigate by hitting the right and left arrows. You'll notice that the information is presented in a different way throughout these particular screens. There's a reason for that. They've learned that when they give you the information in a different way, you retain it much better, rather than just giving it into a static straight line forecast. In each of the learning modules, it's going to ask you to assess your skills before and after. You have to answer those questions. You can't skip through them. So here I'm going to give myself ones. I'm a novice speaker, still learning. I'm aware of my strengths as a communicator, not so well, et cetera, et cetera. I answer these particular 6 questions. Down at the bottom, a submit button will appear. Well, I may not have hit the previous one. I must have skipped one. My apologies. There's the submit button. Now I'm going to skip ahead, and here's a navigation. You can go through the entire module and you can move throughout the entire thing in case it doesn't save the particular space that you were on it. I'm going to go back to review and apply and complete your assignment. You're navigating through it with the chevrons. There's your evaluation resource. Here's how you can print the entire project. Here's your speech outline worksheet, all extraordinary stuff. And let's say you've successfully given your icebreaker speech. Everyone has cheered. You received an excellent evaluation from one of your club members. It's going to ask you to assess your skills after. So you're going to say you went from a 1 to a 3 or a 1 to a 4 or a 1 to a 2. You're going to improve because you're Toastmasters and you're good looking. So that's the 1-2 knockout punch. We're going to a 3. This last 3, there's the submit button. It's important that you hit this submit button and don't just hit this right arrow. Again, a foible of the system. If you hit the right arrow, it will give you the congratulations splash screen, but you actually haven't completed the module. It's going to want you to hit that submit button, no matter what. Once I hit this particular submit button, I'll go in and show you what happens in BaseCamp Manager, assuming I can get BaseCamp Manager. There's our before and after. Then you hit the right arrow and there's your particular congratulations screen.
Doug, I have a question, please.
Yes.
We have a question about icebreakers.
Yes.
Some people want to know, why do we do an icebreaker and how many icebreakers do we have to do?
For each particular pathway, you only have one icebreaker. It's your introductory speech, 4 to 6 minutes. It is a open format, open form, open flow. Basically, you are telling your club members or your audience about yourself. You're literally introducing yourself. The particular learning module tells you how to frame your particular story, your particular narrative. And it helps you put this together in an outline and then be able to successfully tell everyone about who you are, what brought you to Toastmasters, what your why is, how you're going to improve, what you hope to get out of it. That's what the icebreaker is for, but there's only one in any particular pathway. So if you did all 11 pathways, it's a total of 11 icebreakers. But an icebreaker speech, hopefully you'll be giving a number of times outside of Toastmasters, to your coworkers, to your charity, to your church, to any particular organization that you may have to get up and give a speech. If you become the coach of your son's baseball team or your daughter's volleyball team, you're going to be giving them an icebreaker speech to introduce yourself. This helps you become great at that. As you complete levels inside of Pathways, your BaseCamp managers, again, the president, the vice president of education, and your secretary will get notices that you've completed a particular level. You've clicked on activate, you clicked on launch, you've gone through the process, then you'll click on mark complete, and then they'll submit that to your officers, just those 3 officers. Understand that those 3 officers, really it's only one login for them. They're the proctors of the continuing education system of which Pathways is delivered to you. Here I'll log in as my BaseCamp manager from my evening club. Here's what they splash up. Now, it's not necessarily important that everyone understand what to do with this, but it is really helpful to know what your BaseCamp managers go through. There are 2 things they get to look at. They can see what the pending requests are. Now, in my particular club, nobody has completed a particular level yet, but right through here would, if someone had, would be the level they've completed, what they've done, and there will be a green check mark or a red X if I know as a vice president of education or president that they've skipped a speech or something they haven't finished. You would tell them, go back and do it. And then you would click on the green check mark, and that would create a record of completion inside of BaseCamp. But there's a last step, and this is the most important step, and you as members need to be on top of all of your officers in your club. Because once you've done a level inside of BaseCamp and your BaseCamp managers accept it, there's a 4th step that has to happen. Here I'll jump into, and these are the ways to get through it inside of BaseCamp. One of your officers, any of your officers, will go into Toastmasters.org. Let's see how quickly it spools up. They will go to Leadership Central. They will go to Club Central. And again, this is for everyone to understand what the process is, so you can know once you've completed a level, make sure that you get credit for it. I'll click on St. Leo the Great, then they submit education awards. Here's where any of the officers picks a particular member. They pick what particular level they're working on. Anderson's working on online innovative planning level 2. If I had known he had finished that, this is where I pick it and I review the award submission and then submit it. I won't click on it because he's not finished yet. So there are 2 databases. It's a bifurcated system. So there's your Toastmaster word of the day. There's the BaseCamp database, and then there's the Toastmaster database. Toastmasters can look into the BaseCamp database, but the information in BaseCamp does not automatically cascade over to the Toastmasters website. So I implore all officers, help stay on top of your members' completions of levels and make sure they get those award submissions inside of Leadership Central, because that's what counts toward club credit, toward club accomplishments. That's how it's anchored into the particular system. Back inside of BaseCamp Manager, and this again is for the BaseCamp managers. They can type on any name here. This is our club president. The BaseCamp managers can see where the club members are. They can even look at their paths in learning. They can look at their curriculum. They can see where they are in particular levels. For example, she's just started motivational strategies, so she hasn't done anything yet. Let me see if I can get back here. This is the
We got some We got
Yeah, fire away.
we got some questions coming in. Let me see. Someone asked or shared that they have tried to mark complete, and sometimes it doesn't move. Why not?
This gets into the problem of the browsers. You first have to check, is your pop-up blocker off for that particular website? It's a little wonky, but that's the way they've designed it. If the pop-up blocker isn't off for Toastmasters.org or Toastmasters.csod.com, then it may not anchor that particular record because it puts a cookie on your system and then it creates the record at BaseCamp at CSOD.
I have a follow-up question for
Sure.
myself, and maybe it will help some of the other members. Have you experienced a browser that is more user-friendly or friendly for the for BaseCamp? Or one one that really is not so friendly?
Yes, I have. I prefer both Microsoft Edge and the Brave browser. Chrome I run into particular problems with, and the other browsers I've run into niggling little problems, very, very, very small problems. But I find Edge and Brave to be the most robust of the browsers. That's just my opinion.
Thank you. Please confirm that our speeches count towards our path, even if we go over our time frame for our speech.
They do.
Okay.
It's tough winning a contest if you go over.
Right.
And I encourage everyone to do the contests. I'll give you my particular story in competing here at District 44. Every contest I've ever competed in, I've come in last place. But it's okay. I just keep on going. You don't take it personally. You get back on the horse and you give another speech.
I'm trying to find, there is a question about how do you get back? Where is that? Can somebody come off mic and ask that question? I kind of lost it in the chat. You talked about once you're in some place in BaseCamp, how you go back. I think it was you're in the assessment. Okay, go ahead.
I think I know what they're talking about. Here we're in BaseCamp Manager, and this is the same for BaseCamp. To navigate back to the Toastmasters website, there's no particular home button that will take you back to the Toastmasters website. You can click home here, but that won't work. It has to be a drop-down home. Again, a foible of the system. This will take you back to BaseCamp Manager, or if you're in BaseCamp, it'll take you to the home there. But if you want to go back to Toastmasters.org, you have to type it in your Uniform Resource Locator bar, your URL bar, and that'll take you back to Toastmasters. It's something I'm sure they're working on. It's just not there. This is also another way that if you're a BaseCamp manager, you can go to. On this particular page, just remember, this is your bio here. Again, you can navigate to anything, any of the officers held, your order history, membership history, it's all here. I'm going to go back to BaseCamp Manager, and I'll show this to the handful of VPEs that are probably here tonight. Here's the second most important button. It's the Member Progress button. Your vice presidents of education, secretary, and president can see this particular site, and this actually tells them where all of their club members are inside of their Pathways journey. It's still spooling up. If we can get it to spin up here. Again, it's very slow. Here's the foible inside of BaseCamp Manager. So this tells everybody, Chris Cristallo, he's still working on his level 1. I myself have gone through a few more level 1s. I've gone through a number of level 1s, but these are all of our club members and where they are. Some are on 4, they've done 4, level ones. Some have done 3 level ones. He's done 2 level ones. There's a little magic drop down that appears here. I don't know why it's not there all the time, but this is the magic thing that your BaseCamp managers have. When they click on this particular drop down, you can click on the view details or export those details to an Excel spreadsheet. I mentioned earlier, Fran Ellis's brilliant spreadsheet. That's the spreadsheet that you can export all your club members' details to. I'll click on the view details. It throws up a particular pop-up. And for BaseCamp managers, here's where all of your club members are and what they've done, whether they're in progress, what they've completed. So that's under the little hidden drop down there. Why it's hidden, I don't know. Inside of BaseCamp Manager, here's the profile for that particular single entity. If we go back to regular BaseCamp, I'll see if I can jump back to that. I'll have to go back out and then back in.
While you're doing that, Toastmaster Lisa Davis has her hand raised, please. Lisa, come off mic and ask her question, please.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My question was, when you finish the assessment and you've submitted and it congratulates you, how do you get back? What's the simplest way to get back to your path? And also, is there another evaluation to take once you get back to your path and submit so that you could get credit for completing that level, that particular level? Thank you.
So I'll answer that 2-part question. You've gone in, you've selected digital resources. You've decided on your view path options. You click there, and it's going to give us the particular path options. I'll segue here for a moment back to the Toastmasters D44 website, and I'll show you the last thing there, and then I'll come back to, oh, good grief. I'll come back to the actual path selection. Again, this was brilliantly done by my Pathways Champions co-chairs. On any of these 11 badges that you see here, you can click on that particular badge. We'll click on Team Collaboration. Behind that badge is a 2-page summary of everything you need to do inside that particular pathway. And if you want to do it pencil and paper style, as you give your icebreaker, you can write down on a date, and there's your evaluator signature if you so choose. So those of you who are old school, here's the old way of doing it. It's extraordinarily powerful because it lays out all the different electives and what they are, all in a 2-page format. Let me get back to the, here it is. So back to your pathway selection. We're going to continue. It's recommending presentation mastery, but I'm going to choose something different because I'll choose persuasive influence. Again, see how it's lightly grayed out? I'm going to click it. I'm going to continue. Click continue, and it's going to ask, do I want to buy this particular path? And then I'll go to next. Now I'm going to back up, and we're going to say we're going to choose digital resources, and then we're going to take this assessment. We're going to skip the assessment. Down here at the very bottom, you can choose to skip the assessment. If you decide you need the assessment, go ahead and go through the process. It takes about 10 minutes. I'm going to skip it for the purpose of brevity, and it's going to give you this recommended screen right here. So in this path selection, it will tell you what the assessment suggested you do. If you so choose to take that particular pathway, you can click on it and then go through the process of purchasing it. So that's the magic there. It'll give you that little recommended thing if you've gone through the assessment.
I was speaking of the assessment in your project. after you
Oh,
finish
oh.
your project?
Right. Oh, okay. My apologies. So
That's
in your
okay.
particular project, when you have done the pre-assessment and then the after assessment, you'll want to click on that submit button that appears. Normally it should be grayed out, but it appears. If you hit that right chevron, it'll give you the congratulations splash screen, but you actually haven't completed the particular project. You've got to hit that second submit button in the second assessment. Does that answer?
Okay, so I'm completed. As you said, the congratulations picture comes up. Hit the chevron on the left because that's the only way you can go. Do you hit it once, twice, or is there another arrow that's
So
there?
so you've hit the submit button on the assessment, correct?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Now you would hit the right chevron, the one that goes off to your right, and that should take you to the congratulations screen.
And then where? And then what? Because
And
if
then-
I get,
And then you've done it. All right, so you've completed it. Then
so where do I go now?
you'll click. Do you see the home button here on your upper left-hand side?
Correct, but I want to get here from the congratulatory page. Because once I hit that left button, there's only one way to go.
Right.
I end up back at the assessment page, at the
Right,
end of the
right.
assessment. I want to move forward to
Exactly.
this
So
page or another
once you've hit that congratulations screen,
Mhm.
ideally it should say, now hit the home button, and that will take you back to this particular screen.
Okay, ideally it
And
should
then
say
drop
that.
down home. And then that should bring you to this particular screen that's just, well, now that I'm still in BaseCamp Manager. Let me go to BaseCamp. My apologies. So we'll be looking at the same thing here. Spool up quickly, please, 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 because
Can you do another demonstration?
yes, I will.
Okay. Thank you.
While we're waiting for that, I'm going to ask another question. Before, say you want to move on to level 2, is it necessary to complete level 1 in its entirety before moving to level 2?
Brilliant question. In October of 2019, Toastmasters opened up all the projects in all the levels. So you do not have to do them in order. You can do them out of order if you so choose. I recommend everyone would suggest you try to do them sequentially because the body of knowledge and skills all are based upon each other. But frequently in our institutional lives, wherever we're working, you may run into a situation where you're giving a presentation. It might be a question and answer session. It might be a product launch. It might be a postmortem on a particular project that didn't work out as everyone expected, and there's a lot of blame storming going on. There are projects in there that apply to that, and you can do those. And as long as there's another Toastmaster present and you get an evaluation, you can complete those particular projects. So I've jumped back. I'm inside my particular pathways. I'm on effective coaching. I'm going to activate building a social media presence. So I clicked on activate. Now I have to click on launch. This brings up the particular project. Takes a little while as the hamsters are spinning the wheels. All this data is coming from across the country. Again, my apologies that it's sort of slow. So here's the building a social media presence project. And you navigate using these particular chevrons. Here's the introduction to the project. I hit that right chevron. Here's what my assignment is. I can click the project checklist. I can get more information. Again, I navigate using the chevrons. Here's my initial assessments. I'm going to answer those questions. Again, you can activate any particular level. You're not beholden to it. You do not have to complete it. So here's my feedback on my assessing my skills before. You hit that right chevron, and then that takes you into the competencies. That takes you into the benefits, et cetera, et cetera. And again, it presents all the information to you in a different way. It finds that you absorb more if you do it this particular process. Now I'm going to take a shortcut. I'm going to jump to my evaluation. Here's where I would print off the evaluation resource by clicking there. I can print out the summary of my particular project. Here's the project completion form where I would show that I've built a social media presence. I'll say I improved. Go a 3 on each one of those. If I click this submit button, this will say that I've completed that particular project, and then I would click this right arrow, and ta-da, it says congratulations. Now I see what you're talking about. Why does it not allow me to go back to something else? Again, a foible of the particular system. This has opened up your particular level in a different tab. So you would click on the previous tab. Here's where I clicked originally to launch. It opened up this extra tab. So you're literally just closing this tab out, and that'll take you back to where you were before. If I completed this, this would give me a mark complete choice. I would click at mark complete, and then I would move on to another elected project if I so desired. So it's basically, to answer your question, once you've completed a particular project, it's in its own tab. You close out that tab, it'll take you back to your Pathways landing page. Any other questions? Don't hesitate to ask.
We have a question about once you complete your first path completely, how much does it cost for the second path?
In defense of Toastmasters, it's only $20. Again, for a micro credential that is portable and meaningful, and in my humble opinion, impressive, because I know how hard it is to give 15 speeches and go those particular projects. Very worthy. It's only $20.
Thank you. Right now, I don't have any other questions in the chat or any hands raised, so.
Excellent. So I'll summarize. As you go through your pathway, which is delivered to you via the BaseCamp Dynamic User Interactive Chalkboard. So BaseCamp delivers the body of knowledge and the skill sets of pathways to you. As you complete those and you mark them complete, your BaseCamp managers get the notice that you've completed particular levels. The 3 BaseCamp managers, President, Vice President of Education, and your secretary will mark those complete. And then any of the officers need to go in and submit in Leadership Central, Club Central, submit education award that the members have done that. It's my worry, I don't have any facts or figures to back it up, that last step isn't done as much as it should. I think people have completed things inside of BaseCamp, but they didn't necessarily get credit inside of Toastmasters. And you deserve it, because if you got up and gave a speech in front of somebody, you deserve credit.
Just in case someone doesn't know, where would a Toastmaster go to give themselves credit for a club meeting role?
In BaseCamp, let's see if I can get back to BaseCamp. Under your account, so you'll click on this little gear icon that should bring up, if you so gave yourself a picture. There are your preferences. You've chosen your time zone. You've chosen a particular signature. And here are your meeting roles. So all counter, general evaluator, grammarian, speech evaluator, and you can change those dates to whenever you last gave them. So that helps you keep track there. So on level 1, when you're asked to do all these different roles, this is where you can keep track of them. On your Toastmasters.org landing page, when you click on your name, this should take you to a particular, here are your education awards summarized, here are your offices held, here's what you've downloaded, here's your membership history. If you want to read the magazine, it's all here, but here's your education awards in one summary right here. And it should see, as I've just clicked on this, it'll come up that I've done 3 particular pathways. I've done team collaboration, effective. I'm working on these particular things. And here's the Pathways Mentor Program. So that's what keeps track of those there. And I can select for a different club. Inside Beyond the World Toastmasters, I've only selected effective coaching. So inside the Toastmasters.org website, it keeps track more of what has been submitted for you. In BaseCamp Manager, you're submitting things yourself, or excuse me, in BaseCamp rather. Again, here's all your tutorials and resources. They're all right here. For BaseCamp managers, are there any BaseCamp managers in the room? 70, is anybody raising their hand? Excellent, excellent, excellent. As a BaseCamp manager, there are additional reports that are available to you that aren't necessarily obvious. I'll go into BaseCamp Manager and show you. And everybody should know what these are. I'll go in as BaseCamp Manager. It pops in. Here's reports. And you can look at standard reports, or you can customize report. You can tell that this system was developed for corporations because there's a track employees button. But here you can look at pending requests. You can look at training status summaries. You can even look at pie charts of where your members are. This brings up and you can select, okay, do I have online classes type of material? I'm just going to click on search, and this will bring up a pie chart of St. Leo the Great Toastmasters, where everybody is. It's an additional tool that is not necessarily intuitively obvious, but it's for BaseCamp managers. Just something a little Easter egg that's out there. Again, the D44 Toastmasters.org website, this is an enormously powerful tool. If anybody ever wants, you can go back and look at the Pathways Basics. A lot of time and effort has gone into this, and they have laid it out step by step, where to click, where not to click, and it's all right here in Pathways Basics, Part A and Part B. For any of you BaseCamp managers, here's this particular training. And again, here's just an overall slide deck. Again, that has the whole thing about Pathways. It's really, really neat. I recommend it for everybody. Or if you just want to sit and watch the video, it's right here too.
Toastmaster Christian Harden has their hand raised. Could you please come off mute and ask your question?
Thank you, Toastmaster Stephanie. Toastmaster Myers, I just started this process in February, and I joined the FCS Speaks again, and I did my Icebreaker, and it was online, and I read it. You know, I wrote it, and then I read it, and so now I have a pathway, and I know I have a lot of speeches I have to do. So my question is, how do you write your speeches where you're not reading it, but you actually have eye contact with the audience? I find it very difficult to write a speech and then have to look at the audience and keep it where I am in the reading process. So what's your process to get that done where you are keeping the audience engaged, but you're not losing your place where you are within your speech?
Here's my particular approach. And it's actually, part of it is physical. Literally, I write down what my conclusion is, what I want everyone to remember. Then I write down the 3 major points. And I always try to frame my stories in a standard story arc narrative that you set up. Here's a problem. Here's a monster. Here's a bad guy. Here's how we slay it. Here's how we deal with it. Tonight's BaseCamp and BaseCamp Manager, and choosing a path, they can be a little hard, a little wonky. Here's how we slay that particular dragon. Here's how we overcome those particular obstacles. So all you're memorizing is the story arc, where you're starting and then where you're going to end up. And literally, I take my conclusion. If there's any absolutely important bullet points or a quote I have to do, I take Scotch tape, I write it down on a sheet of paper, and I put it right here just underneath the lens of the camera. So when you're looking at everybody, you're literally reading it, sort of a do-it-yourself teleprompter. Because Christian, you're on to something. You realize that eye contact and eventually eye connection is absolutely imperative in effective communication. It's tough in the Zoom format. Knowing what you know now, that already makes you an exemplary communicator, knowing that this is what you want to get to. So my technique is I put the sheet of paper, if I can, under the lens. If your structure is such where the camera is on the particular screen, just go ahead and use Notepad or Word or whatever word processor it is, and put that particular summary or outline on the particular screen. So when your eyes have to dart down, you can look at it very quickly and then get back to looking at the particular camera.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we are right at 8 o'clock. I have dropped the link to the survey in the chat. I'll drop it one more time. Any last minute questions before we close?
Christian, there are some additional ideas inside the chat, so make sure that you save your chat from excellent ideas on what to do on how to best complete what you're trying to do in the Zoom format.
Thank you. Well, there are no other questions. We would.
I would like to thank everybody for your time. It was an hour out of your evening away from your family. Again, this hour that you've spent, if it propels you down a pathway, if it helps you get done what you want to get done to improve your communication and presentation and interpersonal skills, it warms my heart. And I appreciate the time that you've given me to get you where you want to go. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Myers, for continuing to show your expertise when it comes to pathways. I really appreciate your knowledge and, more importantly, your patience as we continue to navigate pathways, because truly pathways can be beneficial to us all. I personally have learned to really appreciate pathways through your leadership. Thank you so much. We have a couple of questions. A lot of people are thanking you. I don't want to belabor, but someone is asking, when looking at the chart in progress, what does the numbers represent on the bottom? Are you talking about, Rona, are you talking about the Excel sheet? You can come off, if you're still here, Rona, come off mic and please ask your question.
I'm bringing up member progress here. It does take a long time for whatever reason, to deliver the data.
And thank you, Sangeeta, for your question. Yes, this presentation will be provided to D44 Toastmasters. The first one is gonna, I know the first presentation is going to be linked in the newsletter that's coming out the end of the month. Okay, Doug, take it away.
So inside of membership progress for the BaseCamp managers, this bottom x-axis represents the number of levels, level 1 projects in progress and completed. Now it says in progress, but it's also the ones that are completed, and I'll show you how. Now, if you want to do it just by completions, you go to the left-hand side and it's just completions. If you need just path progress, it's sorted that way. If you need it sorted by path type, it's sorted that way. Slightly beyond the scope of tonight's meeting, this is what we'll all learn at TLI, which I encourage everyone to get involved in TLI, come to a particular officer's training, even if you're not going to be an officer. Come do the training. It'll make you a better Toastmaster and you'll be able to help out. We go to this little magic drop down. We're going to choose view details. And then this brings up our bar chart. It's actually technically a histogram for those of you who are statistically oriented. And for example, Chris Cristallo, he's done his icebreaker. He's in progress on his evaluation and feedback project. I myself have done a number of completions. I haven't done any further, but down here at the bottom, we call her Gloria, but Shin Yen Win. She's in progress on her icebreaker for her second particular pathway. And so up here, you can see that level 1 projects in progress, she's actually completed her first dynamic leadership level 1. They're all completed here. And then she started a second. And that's why you see the 1, 2, 3. Here's the 1, 2, 3 here. And then she's on the 4th one here for her second pathway. Not necessarily the clearest way to look at it. But again, this was set up for professional proctors in corporate environments who are making sure that the employees are doing their continuing education. And you can export this to an Excel spreadsheet should you so want. But that answers your question, hopefully.
Thank you, Distinguished Toastmaster Myers. As Madam PQD has stated in the chat, this will not be our last Pathways workshop. There's still a lot of learning to do. So we look forward to having some information about Pathways at TLI as far as an additional workshops in the new year to come. So
Finally,
again,
I'll offer, if in any of your clubs you would like a Pathways champion to come visit your club, probably via Zoom, and give a Pathways presentation hands-on, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask.
for those of you who really need it, and all of us do not hesitate to reach out and make that request. Toastmasters is always cognizant of time. We don't like to exceed our time limit. So this evening, again, we're going to thank you for coming. Thank you, Toastmasters, Toastmaster Myers, and we will see you next time. Have a wonderful evening, D44.